It's still the David Abney the third in the house with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool you guys are doing this, and it's special,
It's cool because we get guys like you coming on.
Exactly. And it's fun. Like we were chatting, it's just an opportunity that we get to just take time, silence the phones, silence the business, and just talk business.
Silencing the phones is the hardest part.
That is very hard. That is very hard.
There's just like so few moments now where we get to like take long form content, or have long form conversations. Everything's so here and now and clickbaity, and
you just live through moments,
right?
Blast through moments, like good moments.
Totally.
And I think people really want this, right? It's conversation.
I think
depth,
so too.
It's right.
I think so too. And it kind of goes into the idea of, you never know how much progress that you're making because you're constantly moving and looking ahead and seeing the goal, right? But sometimes, taking that pause just to settle down and just kind of take a peek behind to see like how far you've actually come.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I do. That's tough for me because I'm always chasing the next thing. I'm always looking at where I'm not, right? And to some degree, that's probably not healthy at all. But,
it's probably a common characteristic in, high performers, right? The goalpost is always moving. I heard a guy say, he's a football player. I think he was in the draft this year. He said something like, for me, part of success is just focusing on how can I complete the process and be emotionally unattached from the results. And I think that's kind of the key when you're growing as well, right? It's like, I don't want to be emotionally attached to the outcomes, which I think being emotionally attached to the outcomes in one way is what you're talking about. It's where can I be next? I'm not here yet.
Yeah.
That's the emotional attachment as opposed to like, what's the day-to-day stuff
Yeah.
that I'm just doing and executing on. Right.
Well, that's the Centerville basketball coach, Brooke Cups. He wrote a book basically on that saying, surrender the outcome, trust the process.
Yeah.
Surrender the outcome and trust the process. So speaking of looking back, let's look back at David Abney. Dude, tell us your story from day one. Give us from day one.
Yeah. No,
where were you born? Where are you from? And then just kind of your journey.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, man, I was born in Dayton, born and raised here. My neither of my parents lived here. My mom was from Cleveland. My dad was from South Carolina. And, long story short, both my parents were business owners and entrepreneurs at heart. And so one of the things that I've grown a tremendous amount of gratitude for is just growing up in a house of entrepreneurs.
Totally.
Right. And seeing both the highs, the lows, right? I think about some of the big projects my dad's worked on. He was in the construction business, which is also really neat because, they build buildings. And so their work is everywhere.
Yeah.
You drive around the city and remember as a kid being so proud to think, oh, my dad built that building.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
100 years,
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then obviously seeing some of the lows, right? You think about 0809, right? For a lot of business owners, that was huge. So seeing that just really prepared me as a young person to, aspire to be a business owner for all the things that it gives you and all the challenges that it presents to you too. Because you have to be the best version of yourself and wear so many different hats as an entrepreneur, right?
So why Dayton? If one's from Cleveland, one's from South Carolina, what brought him to Dayton?
So my dad, he graduated high school down in South Carolina. There was a gentleman, Warren Wise, who actually the business is named after, who graduated high school. He moved to Cincinnati as a contractor or doing some contract work and ultimately decided to start a business in the 80s, I believe. And lo and behold, there was a guy from his hometown that was in town doing some surveying work down in Cincinnati. And he reached out to him and said, hey, I'm starting a business. I want you to be my partner. And the business was in Dayton. So my dad moved up to Dayton. And unfortunately, Warren Wise passed pretty early in the inception of the business. Yeah, maybe 5 to 10 years. I don't know exactly when, but so my dad went from, COO, so to speak, and kind of chief. Warren was big on the business relationship side. If you guys know anything about construction, it is a tough business.
Oh, it's beast.
It's a tough business, and it's heavily relationship driven. All right. And so Warren was that guy. My dad was more the technical guy. And long story short, Warren passed. Dad had to take it over. And so that was like 40 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But But yeah, so I guess kind of backtracking, having two parents that were entrepreneurs meant a lot to me. And then I had brothers growing up. Older brother that was 12 years older than me, and he would just kick our butt in everything.
Dude, that is so needed in life.
I feel like that's healthy.
Yeah,
it
is.
I call it little brother syndrome. Like, I thanked my brother for beating me up. I'm like, thank you for instilling toughness.
Yeah.
Like, that's little brother syndrome, getting beat up by your brother and overcoming.
Yeah. Yeah. My takeaway was like, in the moment, it obviously doesn't feel great. Right?
No. Oh, no.
Everything, football, basketball, video games. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
We never won.
Teased, tormented.
Right.
Yeah. You always lost.
Yeah. Always taking it out. But what it taught me is like persistence. It's like you can compete and give it your best and lose and wake up and do it again.
Yeah.
And like, not a lot of people really know how to do that.
That's good.
And I think that is a direct correlation to entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the big reasons why so many people fail is not because of intelligence, not because of an idea, but because of their lack of, I guess, willingness to get hit in the mouth and get back up over and over and over and over. And one of the sayings, once again, totally not original, but that resonates so much with me is if you're sitting here and you're like, what type of person do I want to be? What type of characteristics do I want to possess? Right. And just using the analogy of like, oh, I'm praying to the Lord of like, what does that look like? And some of the things would be like, oh, well, I want to, be patient. I want to be strong. I want to conquer. I want to, be persistent. I want all these great characteristics. But in order to get them, what do you have to go through? Mm-hmm. Right? In order to get patience, I'm going to have to go through things that test my patience.
Have kids.
Yeah. And so on and so forth. So it's like these moments, like when you're, getting, smoked by your brother mm-hmm. and all these bad things, it's building those characteristics of ultimately the person that you want to become. Mm-hmm. Right. And you don't just wake up one day patient. You don't just wake up one day courageous. You have to go through the fire mm-hmm. to get there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's super important.
Yeah. One of the things I always ask myself and some of the advisors at our firm that I lead, I'm just like, what are you willing to give up? Mm. Because that whatever you tell me, that's how far I know you're able to go.
Dude, that's so true. And I'd be interested to hear the responses of people of just literally asking that question and then just silence. Just what are you willing to give up?
Yeah.
And hearing what they have to say to that, because I feel like a lot of people aren't really willing to give up what, is required to achieve what they want to achieve.
Well, it's like this idea I've been thinking about a lot. It's optimizing versus maximizing.
Bro, we talked about that at coffee and I was going to bring that up. I wanted to drill into that because that stuck with me. That was so good. So I'm so happy that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Sorry, get into that. I got excited about it.
I wish it was my original idea, but it's pretty simple, right? It's just, you think about human history. Mm-hmm. We are hardwired for optimization, right? We're trying to get the most out of the least, right? Evolutionarily, that's worked really, really well for us. But we have an abundance now, right? Our reptilian brain doesn't really understand how to work in a world of abundance. Think about some of the food crisis we have. Think about the overindulgence in dopamine and sugar and all these are dopaminergic triggers, right? So I think about this in my daily life, like rather than thinking about, with particular opportunities, rather than thinking about how little can I put in and get the most out, I think it's important you ask yourself the question, what's the most I could get out of this thing with the most amount of effort? Like no one performing at a high level is optimizing. Okay. Right. Maybe on the fringes, right? You optimize with leverage, with scale, right? You bring in people in your organization, helping to accelerate the vision, but you don't optimize on the one thing that you're really gifted at, right? Like I think that's kind of the name of the game in entrepreneurship or business ownership is identifying what's that one thing that I'm uniquely gifted at that no one else can do as best as I can. Mm-hmm. How can I maximize that? Optimization has its place, I think, in all the other spaces, but not in that.
Yeah.
Not in that, right? And so I just think it's a question that more people should ask themselves. What if I maximize this? How much can I give?
Mm-hmm. That's so good. And for me, what the string that I kind of draw to that is understanding the potential that I've been given and trying to squeeze every ounce of that out of that lemon of like, I know that I was created to do this. I need to see how far I can go and how much that I can push to become ultimately that best. I hate using best version of yourself, but ultimately become that in all aspects of life and really just actualizing the potential that you were given. And I love that, man.
Well, let's back into that. So like, what is that for you that you're trying to maximize? First of all, tell people what you do, because we know David Abney, but tell people what you do, and then also what you're trying to maximize in your business.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at an event the other day, and a lot of people were asking, "What do you do? What do you do?" And I said, "Do you want the soundbite, or do you want to know what I really do?"
Yeah.
And so the soundbite, I'm a financial advisor. I do comprehensive financial planning. Our team and I serve, I don't know, 300 households or so across the country. But what I really do, and what I love about my work is, I spend most hours of most days just talking with people about what they love. What do they love in life, and what do they want to spend more time loving? And then I talk to them about what are they worried about? What are they concerned about?
Yeah.
And then really my job and our team's job is to create a blueprint.
There's a plug.
Yeah. A guide path, a glide path to spend more time doing the stuff they love and less time worrying about the stuff they would otherwise worry about. It's that at its core, that's what it is.
And that seems incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah. Deeply.
Very fulfilling.
Yeah. So I forget your question.
So the maximization in your business, what is it that you're looking to maximize?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've been asking myself that question, and it's been changing and evolving. I'm sure same with you guys, because even in the work you do, there's the technical function of it, but then you got to ask yourself, what am I actually doing? And I think the thing that I'm trying to maximize obviously is the business, right? But if we go a level deeper, I think what it really boils down to is how can I become one of the best listeners anyone's ever met and one of the best storytellers anyone's ever met.
That's good.
Because I think my job is storytelling, right?
I do. And I think storytelling is such a great skill to have in all aspects. I think people relate to storytelling. It drives it home, and you can really reach people through stories. And that's something that I've heard several times, and something that's on the docket of that is a skill that I would like to improve. Instead of just giving the technical jargon about whatever it may be, how can I really relate this to real life, something that I've experienced, and be able to present that in a way that allows the person that I'm talking to really understand, relate, and almost have like an emotional feel to it. I think that that's something that stories presents, is the ability to feel emotion to the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
I think listening is coming from that. I think listening is the most important skill, not just in business, but in life, relationships, whatever. Because I think a lot of people, once they get something, they like to flaunt it and all that stuff. And it's like, even when you think you've reached your potential, like Alex Hormozy still says he will listen to everybody. And if you listen to his Q&As, I mean, he truly listens to his people. And it's just like listening, I think, is the best skill in business that anybody could have. Listening to me equals just maximizing learning.
Well, let's drill into that a little bit, because I think that listening and like actually listening, and what I mean by that is so many times we're having conversations, right? And I'm listening to what you're saying, but in the same time, I'm thinking about the three things that I want to say to what you just said. And so am I actually listening? No, I'm thinking through my thoughts of what I want to say next, and not really setting with what you're saying in every word that you're saying. I mean, truth be told, like that's something that I feel like I want to get better at is really, instead of just not shutting my brain off, but instead of thinking through every response that I'm going to have to what somebody's saying, just genuinely letting it soak in.
Well, it's tough. I think part of it is getting comfortable with silence, right? Just, I heard something, let me sit with it and let me get back to you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. But I heard someone say a while ago, they said, if you're humble enough, you can learn something from anyone. And it reminded me of what you were saying about Alex listening to all those questions. But Zach, to your point, really both your points, I think what makes listening so important is a couple of things, but one, so I've been running, right? I've been running.
I've seen that.
I've seen that, dude. I love it.
I've got, thank you. I got some Achilles tendonitis right now. And I'm like, what's going on? Why is my Achilles hurt? And I was talking to another advisor at my firm, longtime runner, really, really great runner. He's probably in his 50s and qualified for the Boston Marathon many times. Wow. And I was telling him, hey, Dave, my Achilles is hurting. What do you think's going on? He said, David, typically when you have an issue, it's not the site. There's something upstream.
Mm-hmm.
That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe it's your calf, maybe it's your hamstring, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's your hip or your back or something. And I thought, wow. First of all, thanks. But I thought about it further and I thought that's what listening allows you to do. It allowed, like, so many of us are trying to solve problems at the site of the pain.
Dude, this
and when we listen, we're able to see what's upstream, what's updraft, right? Where's the real issue? I mean, so much of solving the problems in front of you is just is knowing what problem do you want to solve. And so I think about that with clients, with client relationships. So many times you ask people a question and they tell you kind of a first level answer, but it's like, how can I listen to hear the actual issue
and probe it the right way?
What are you actually going for? What's actually important to you? And it just, I think that's really the value of listening in relationships and business. It's the ability to really diagnose, what does someone want? And, who doesn't want to be around people that care about what they care about? That's like the ultimate professional.
Absolutely.
It's the ultimate fiduciary, right?
Yeah.
That is so good. Wow. I never thought of it in that light.
Yeah.
That analogy, that dude, and did you just come up with that when he was like talking through some of that stuff?
The dots clicked.
Yeah, you're a deep thinker, man.
Dude, that is.
What do you guys think? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I mean, it's kind of what we do. It's like, dude, if you just let people talk, like, you'll get to the root. Like, our whole job is get to, figure out where their no is stemming from. And it's like, if you just let their silence or probe it the right way, you'll ultimately get like what's going on. And so again, it's just listening. Well, I mean, there was a conversation that I had with a lady where it was 40, she spoke for 45 minutes. I maybe spoke for 2, but it's like,
I love you.
But I was the best person ever. She loved me because I just listened. Nobody else listens to her.
Well, I think that listening is probably one of the most required skills for sales.
Yeah.
And I think that I have the opinion that all of us are in sales. Yeah. Everything that we do
100%
is sales, right?
If you're in business, you're in sales.
If you're in
sales
business,
and leadership.
Even if you're not in business, think about it. If you're on the dating scene, you got to sell yourself. If whatever that may look like, we're in sales. And I think that understanding how to listen and properly ask questions and direct the conversation and probe to where, because of what you've asked, now it's really getting somebody to open up. And then in the sales world, you call it objections, right? Or the smoke screen that people are giving up. But being able, I think true sales is the ability to, like Spencer was saying, is not just the, gift of the gab.
Yeah.
It's more so how, and I don't want to use the word strategic because sometimes strategic can have like a bad connotation, but how can you ultimately strategically ask questions and talk less, because everybody likes to talk about themselves, right? And everybody wants to talk about those things, but how can you just like truly listen, ask great questions that ultimately get people to open up. I think that is one of the keys to sales. And I think sales is in everything that we do.
Would you say that's a favorite part about your job, is just getting to hear people's stories? Or what would you say is your favorite part, if not that?
That's a good question. You know, I like hearing people's stories, but I think that's maybe a superficial answer, actually. And it's a great question. But I think what I enjoy the most is watching someone go through this. Like, this doesn't happen all the time, right? This isn't an ideal scenario. And part of me, just getting better at my craft is being able to create this experience for everyone I meet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing I'm really, really focused on when I'm with people in general, but certainly client relationships. But it's watching people go through this experience of, here's what I think at first, to here's this person that seems to really actually care about what I care about.
Mm-hmm.
And then now this person's really helping me unpack what I care about, right? Because it's really hard to read the label inside the bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we need somebody to take us out of that, right? Or tell us what's on the label. But I want them to define it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to get really, really clear on why they want what they want, why they care about that. And then start to connect the dots between, how can my behavior, what behavioral adjustments do I need to make?
Mm-hmm.
What mindset shifts do I need to make to get closer to that? Right. So just that process of self-discovery, connecting the head to the heart, this is what I want with the emotional aspect of it, which was really what drives action for us. Right. I love that. I love that process. So the story is in uncovering that, or you uncover the story in that process, but it's kind of like a cathartic experience for people, right? Just watching them unravel their thoughts, unravel their beliefs, unravel their mindset, and
seeing
get
the
clarity.
progress over time.
Yeah. I like to try to do it within like 60 minutes though. So that's the art of it. It's like, how quickly and effectively can you do this?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm usually doing a good job when people say things like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Or,
that's good.
Or they'll say, if I'm being honest, that's what they'll say.
Yeah. If I'm being honest.
And then the emotion starts to come out. And I'm like, okay, we're making progress here.
Right.
Right. So yeah, that's probably my favorite.
So it sounds like financial
it's like therapy.
Financial planning is the result, is what you do, right? But the David secret sauce is more so the experience. Before we came on, we were just talking about like the tailoring, right? And how, if the result is you get a great custom suit that's fitted properly to you, but at this one tailor, they have the whole experience. They have the bourbon, they have all the things. It's everything that goes into the user experience that makes them different, that sets them apart.
Well, Zach, I'll give you an example. The question that was asked to me before I ever picked out a suit was, how do you want other people to see you and why?
Ooh.
Really? That is
right. And so there's the suit.
Yeah.
But then there's the why am I here?
Right.
What did I show up for? Right. And so I think about that in financial planning, right? It's okay. Yes. Everybody wants to, most people want to have wealth. Most people want to not have to worry about things, but it sounds silly, but why? Right. And you start to go a few layers deep and you really get to what people are trying to accomplish. And in that way, a lot of people are different. There's a lot of similarities, but for most people, you really, really unpack it. One of my favorite questions that I ask all of our prospective clients, I ask current clients too, during our review process, but I ask them what their money story is. And so we all have a money story. That story is the things that we learned or didn't learn, the things that we experienced, typically growing up by observing our household, our parents, our friends, that taught us or left the biggest mark on us behaviorally when it comes to our relationship with money. And so I think that question kind of gets to the why. So I typically ask something like, Zach, growing up, what did you learn, or what did you really take away when you observed your parents' financial situation, right? What are the experiences you went through that most shaped your perspective on money?
Dude, that is such a deep question.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that way, but if you really think about it, and so let me ask you this: do you notice that you have to they don't just open up on one meeting? It takes, so originally they'll give you one answer, like the surface level answer, and then as you cultivate a relationship, as you meet multiple different times, those answers actually change, and you really, as they get more comfortable, and as you guys build more of a relationship, those surface level answers now become a lot deeper answers. And do you see that quite often?
Yeah. I think what you're getting at is this idea that there's three layers of questions. There's questions of fact, there's questions of substance, and there's questions of emotion. So a question of fact is, Zach, how you doing today?
Great.
Good. Yeah.
Where
are you from, by the way?
Greenville, Ohio.
Greenville, right? How long did it take you to think of that answer? Yeah.
Very quick.
Right. And to go a layer deeper, you may say, what was it like growing up in Greenville, Ohio as a young kid? So what was your experience?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, now I got to think about this. Now I have to tell a story.
Right.
Right. And in this example, maybe you go a little further. You would say, you tell your story and you find something to latch onto or connect there. And you say, well, how did this experience growing up in Greenville shape who you ultimately wanted to become today? And we've talked about this, right? You talked about how, hey, growing up, I just didn't see a ton of examples of what big thinking looked like. Right. And so the lack of what I saw is led me to part of the reason I think big today. Right. So like, that's an example of how you can kind of go three layers deep with somebody to really start to get at their why.
Yeah. Because people are driven by something.
You're putting on a masterclass, homie. This is great. Wow. This is really giving me something to go back and think about.
So, I know, so I'm coming out of left field here just because like what stuck with me is going back to your story, your upbringing. You said you grew up in a house of entrepreneurs. We only heard about your dad.
Yeah.
What about your mom? Tell us a little bit about your mom.
Yeah. Mom was a graphic designer, hardcore creative.
Oh,
hardcore creative. And I never thought of myself as creative, but as I get a little bit older, there's some different avenues that I've started to explore that express creativity, cooking being one of them, but also the profession, right?
Yeah.
The art of conversation, I think is,
it's an art.
Creativity in a way.
Yeah.
Right?
Clearly.
Yeah.
From what you've been saying. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, mom was a graphic designer, but I guess I'll share this. So, I'm still crafting this story, right? But I think the ultimate reason I got into finance and what I'm doing now, there are a couple things that happened. So obviously parents were entrepreneurs, brothers were highly competitive. So I had that competitive nature, but two things happened in my early adolescence that I think really laid the groundwork for what is my life's work. And that is, one, my parents sent me, I advocated, and my parents sent me to this independent day school here in town, and very academically competitive, very affluent, relatively speaking. And that looked nothing like what my life looked like growing up, right? Where I grew up, average household income's like $17,000 or something like that. Lots of working class folks, lots of poverty, just not a lot of hope and spirit in the community, not a lot about opportunity and exposure, right? So much of what we're able to accomplish is a function of what we're exposed to, right? Just to see somebody else do it and think, okay, that's attainable.
That's possible.
That's possible.
Yeah.
So I go to the school and all of a sudden, I'm exposed to all these people that are doing things that I never even thought about. Right. And every single day I'm driving back and forth 20 miles between this school and my hometown. And I see these two vastly different environments, one of opportunity and frankly, one lacking a lot of hope. And I thought, wow, like there's so many people out there that just don't have these opportunities. They don't have this exposure. And the thing that seemed most, the common thread was a lack of financial resources. And so I couldn't help but really put this together. And then I was also introduced to the stock market the same year.
How old were you?
In the 8th grade, I was probably 12, 11. Yeah, played a virtual stock market game. Had 2 partners, so the 3 of us. One of them dropped out of the group, but there was one partner.
Yeah,
and we got lucky. Okay, we got lucky. We were investing $100,000 of fake money. We turned in 186 grand in like 5 or 6 months. So crazy return.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I'd say so.
And this is a statewide game, funded by Ohio State State Education Program. And long story short, we won in our class, but we also won in the entire state of Ohio. We beat every other team in Ohio. Pure luck. We bought Baidu, Netflix, maybe Facebook as well. I just remember thinking Netflix was a cool idea.
Yeah.
Right. We used to get Blockbuster growing up as a family.
Yeah, I remember.
And I remember Netflix coming in the mail. I'm like, this is cool. Like you can just mail it back whenever you want. There's no timeline.
Right.
You can watch it same day, mail it back, and you get a random assortment of movies. I thought that was a really cool idea. And so it seemed like a decent business to buy, right?
Yeah. Hindsight 2020.
Pure luck, right?
Yeah.
Pure luck. But long story short, what dawned on me and the connection I made was you can use money to make money. That was a brand new idea to me. And I couldn't help but think, wow, if the people I knew or the people that I grew up with, community I grew up with, knew how to do this, the world will look a lot different. Their opportunities will look a lot different. And so that's really where my passion for finance started. It was a tool that could bridge a gap between, being unaware and being aware, from being destitute and hopeless to having opportunity and exposure. That's really what I viewed it as. And so, growing up, my parents always said, hey, if you see a problem, it's an opportunity for a business. And so I thought this is a problem and probably an opportunity for a business.
What great parents. I mean, a tremendous thing for parents to even say.
Yeah.
100%.
That's a whole mindset.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And so then obviously went to college, studied finance, all that jazz. And then when did you start with Northwestern?
Back in 2016. May of 2016. So
been there almost 10 years now, huh?
Yeah, it's been almost a decade.
That is crazy. Because, dude, I remember back in the day, I used to work at Northwestern. I mean, and that feels like an eternity ago. I remember, just for y'all listening, when I came on the scene at Northwestern, David was the guy. He was balling, man. Yeah, he was crushing it. And everywhere we go, be like, oh yeah, David Abney. He's crushing it. So, dude,
it's funny because like inside, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Right?
Yeah. Well, obviously you did a pretty good job.
It's like so much of, I'm sure you guys have experienced this, right? Your peers and friends and family, like, oh, you're crushing it. What you're building is special. And on the inside, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, dude, it's imposter
like
syndrome.
Yeah.
It's imposter syndrome. I feel like it doesn't matter like what, how far you progress. It's always like,
am I
actually like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
Do you still struggle with that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Not as badly, but there's still plenty of times I'll meet somebody or, a client in particular. And I'm like, I retired somebody. We retired them a couple weeks ago. And I just remember thinking, wow, like this is their life.
Yeah.
And they look to me as the sole authority in this decision making.
That's crazy.
And
it's a lot of
that's
weight
to bear.
How much you're trained for it,
right?
Yet the gravity of it still hits you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the more that you do it, and the more clients that you stack, and the more positive results that you see, the more you just build confidence, and it's like, well, that's another one that we just retired, and not looking at it from like a transactional standpoint, but from the aspect of like, that was a successful story.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that ultimately builds your confidence in what you're doing. I think that,
From your young pup days at Northwestern Mutual, when Zach Heyer heard rumors of David Abney crushing it, till today, being almost 10 years, I mean, that's something worth talking about. Like, where are you at now, comparatively speaking, in all aspects, compared to when you first walked into the office?
Yeah. Well,
How's that journey been?
it's been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal and challenging
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways. And so one of the things you said when we got started today was, you don't just wake up with persistence. You don't
Mhm.
just wake up with patience. You don't just wake up with endurance. It's you have to go through the hard stuff to get there. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, now I think, one of the things I really started to wrap my mind around is scale
Mm.
in this business. In our work, at least for me, there came a point where I realized I'm going to have success in this. It's going to work out, probably. So I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, you're making pretty good progress.
But and all the things most of the things I'd want to do financially, if not all of them, are almost by default going to happen, just because once you build the business, it takes on a certain level of momentum, and it's not inevitable, but almost inevitable that you're going to get to kind of this end goal,
Mm-hmm.
at least financially. And that was one of the biggest reasons I joined is and started the career. I wanted to provide a certain lifestyle for myself, my family, and ultimately give back
Mm-hmm.
to kids that grew up in communities like me,
Mm-hmm.
to give them the opportunity to be exposed to the same things that I was, that ultimately changed my frame of mind or my reference points for
Mhm.
what success looked like. But all this said, right, I started to think, okay, if I really go at this thing for the next 40 years, I might help 1,500 to 2,000 families.
Mhm.
When I leave here today, I'll drive by 2,000 people.
Right. Right.
And like, that's, to me, that felt insignificant.
Mm.
Right. And so the more I'm building my practice, the more I think about, how can I create scale? How can we not serve 2,000 people? How can we serve 150,000, 200,000 people
Yeah.
through scale, through other advisors? Because there's a huge shortage in the industry of advisors, and a growing demand for them as well. McKinsey put out a paper recently that said something like, by 2035, so in the next decade, there'll be room for about another 200,000 advisors
Really?
in the industry. And I think it's interesting, because sometimes I say that to people and they think, well, let's say, well, what do you think about AI? What do you think about robo advisors? What do you think about? And I don't know if you guys know this, but back, when the internet became a household commodity,
Mhm.
Travel agents were put in a similar position. Travel agents, you call them, you book your travel, they book the hotels for you. Because prior, you didn't just go online and book your
Right.
flights and
Yeah.
book your,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a labor intensive process to
Yeah.
create that. But now with the internet, you could just go online and go to
Expedia,
booking.com,
yeah,
Expedia,
yeah.
and book your own stuff.
Right.
And so you think, okay, that's probably a problem for travel agents. Well,
Mhm.
the best travel agents shifted
Mm-hmm. Right.
into leveraging the technology to create an experience for the people booking.
Mm.
Right. And so they would audit all these hotels, all these vacation rentals, all these flight companies, and learned how to create a booking experience, utilizing the tools to actually expedite the process on their back end and be more relationship driven with the client.
Mm.
And so I see a lot of that happening in our business, and I think that's the next big opportunity for the new advisors coming in the field, is how can we leverage some of these digital tools to create an experience for people, for clients in the financial planning space, because that's what people really want. People are willing to pay a premium for a great experience. You see it in so
100%.
many of the lifestyle and luxury things and commodities that we pay for these days, right? I'll pause there. I feel like I'm going on a
No, that's good.
dude,
So
dude,
what's
that's
your
great.
idea? So what's your idea of scale? So tell us where your
Yeah.
business is now. Tell us what your future goals are.
Yeah. So right now, again, we're around 300 households. I think we're in 26 or 27 states.
How many team members do you have?
Two team
working with
members
you?
right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But really, the goal is, building out. We talked about optimization and maximization
Yep.
earlier. We talked about sales.
Yep.
Like, you're in sales if you're in business.
Right.
You're in sales and leadership. Sales and leadership are, I think, the two most important skills in entrepreneurship
Mhm.
and being a business owner, and they're the two. They're not taught in academic environments.
Not at all.
It's crazy,
Not at all.
right? Anyway, so why do I bring that up? Because what I'm learning is, more than bringing in clients,
Mhm.
like the bottleneck in your business is your team.
Mhm.
And so now I'm thinking, okay, I've got to start selling other people to
Mhm.
join what we're building.
Yeah. And so that's how you see yourself going from serving 2,000 families to serving 200,000 families is a team.
Is as a team. How can I attract really talented people to the team?
Yep.
Who can fulfill their own vision within mine?
Yeah.
And then just nurture them.
So reverse engineering,
Mm-hmm.
200,000 families or whatever that number is.
Works out to about 100 advisors.
Okay. Perfect. So that's what I was going to ask. So you want to grow your team to 100 advisors?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Inside my personal practice, and then inside the firm as a whole.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So finding them, developing them, nurturing them, and then giving them an opportunity and a chassis to fulfill, their own aspirations and fulfill their own money story, so to speak.
And I feel like you're uniquely positioned because of a role that you have within Northwestern, because we were talking about it, of how you're the college unit director, right?
Yeah.
And how you took over that program, and now you're building those leadership skills, and you're getting to mentor and teach and grow these young individuals into creating, the next David Abney's, and it sounds like that has been a huge success, right?
Yeah.
You were top 10 college program in the country, right?
Our first year at it. And again, some of these things you do and you're like, was I lucky? Or, how did that happen?
Was everybody else just that bad?
Yeah.
That's what I always ask myself. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
And like you guys, man, I typically anytime something goes right, I'm usually just thinking about all the things that we didn't nail.
Yeah.
And then you're on to the next.
For sure.
Exactly. But yeah, it's really fulfilling to, have that type of influence and impact in someone's life, and to watch them go through this development process, this change in their mindset, this evolution in their thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's so rewarding.
So
real quick. And not that like you're utilizing it for that, but I feel like that is a great opportunity to develop this young talent and then be able to provide an extraordinary team and have an avenue for them to join that team, right? It could be mutually beneficial for not only them, but also for you, because you're saying, hey, I want to go build, 100 advisor team.
Mm-hmm.
What better way to do that than having it at almost the grassroots of this program and being able to develop that and then have an opportunity for them to just slide in seamlessly into the David Abney team.
Yeah. And I don't want to lose sight of the why behind all this. Like at the end of the day, I wake up literally every day and I'm just reminded, like, there's so many people out there that need help and that want help, and, a relationship with a great human and a great advisor will fundamentally change the trajectory of their lives and the lives of everyone that's not in the room as well, who they're going to impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Friends, family, communities. And that's kind of the ultimate goal in the work that I do is, really my vision as we build out this team and serve all these families and attract advisors to help serve these families. Because realistically, you can manage anywhere from 150 to 250 client relationships as a lead advisor.
Mm-hmm.
When you go beyond that, it gets kind of tough to maintain that, personalized touch on
that
every
intimate,
single,
right?
Because it's a relationship,
Totally,
right?
Yeah,
we can only have so many relationships, right? I read somewhere that humans can remember something like 250 faces and have roughly 50 close relationships. So that tracks with the business. But the ultimate goal is really to build out kind of a family office style practice where there's 50 families who all represent who are all significant in their own communities.
Mm-hmm.
And the work we do for them isn't so much about, growing their wealth.
Yeah.
They've won that game.
Yeah.
The opportunity for them is, how can we utilize what you've built and been blessed with
Mm-hmm.
to bless as many other people as possible? And so that's a lot of the charitable work that you see,
Mm-hmm.
and family, generational wealth planning. But really what it boils down to is just, how can I, gain scale and leverage working with people who have the means to give back to thousands of people.
Yeah.
So I think about, building what we're building from an advisor standpoint,
Yeah.
building advisors to serve a lot of people. And then I think about personal practice, building out the team and the level of expertise and the relationships with people that, when we make decisions about how much they're giving, we're talking about, making a dent in homelessness in a community,
Mm-hmm.
making a dent in food deserts in communities, making a dent in, education in communities. That's like the end goal for what we're building.
So going back to the scale side of things. So inevitably, I mean, you're a great advisor. You're gonna, you're great at what you do. But let's talk about, like, on this journey of wanting to build out your team. You say leadership and sales aren't taught, but they're needed. What are you doing as a leader, like, to grow books, podcasts? Like, what's kind of like your ritual when it comes to growing as a leader? And where do you see yourself now as a leader?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Self-evaluation.
I love it, man.
Yeah. Like you guys, man, I mean, the books, the podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
I try to be like unrelenting on those. We were talking about how
Totally.
we just listen to podcasts. We said earlier, hey, what are you willing to give up? I love music. I always have music.
Dude, don't tell me that you work out without music. Do you listen to podcasts when you work out?
So no.
Okay.
I
I just wanted to check.
But when I think about, okay, what am I willing to give up to grow as a leader?
Yeah.
It's like all these hours where I'm normally listening to music.
Yeah.
Giving that up.
I want to ride in the car with, like, music on and sing with windows down, but it's like, nope, I turn on a podcast instead.
Dude,
That's tough.
I don't think that I'll ever get there, but I would like to be able to, because, dude, when I work out, I'll work out for like an hour, and if I could like listen to a podcast in one full setting, I don't know if I can do it, man. I want to be able to get there, but
music motivates me more.
It motivates me, man.
So the second part of that question is, like, right now as a leader, like, what would you rate yourself? Like, what would you evaluate yourself as a leader? And then maybe some goals that you have in the near future in your leadership style and stuff like that. Because you're learning. You have a team of two. What are those roles, by the way? Sorry, I'm kind of bombarding you.
No, you're fine. So I'll try to unpack each question. So it's tough to really say where I'm at as a leader. I think the best way to do it, I'd have to get some feedback from the people that I lead. But I'll tell you this, I think there's a couple things I'm really learning in my leadership journey. And that is, one, just continuing to learn how to build that deep relationship with the people that I'm supposed to lead. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And just really getting clear on, what do they want?
Mm-hmm.
And can they see what they want in the vision that I have for what I'm building?
Mm-hmm.
It's really tough to follow someone and be led by someone, and you can't see your own vision in theirs.
And you almost have to create an environment big enough for their goals.
Yeah.
To where they get exactly what you said, creating a space big enough that all these high level achievers can fulfill their visions for their lives, all under the same umbrella. And that's really tough as the creator and as the entrepreneur and the leader, to be able to create an environment that big that it can house other high achievers' visions, goals, dreams. That's a challenge, but I think the people that do it are the most successful people on the planet.
Yeah. Demands a lot from someone to be able to create an environment like that, because, I think the ultimate leaders lead by example. And so you've got to be that person. And I think that's the biggest blessing about leadership, is that it demands more of you all the time. All the time it demands more of you. And, in a lot of ways, not entirely, but in a lot of ways, other people's futures are contingent upon your ability to show up and create those environments.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So one of the other things I'm really working on is just meeting people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
It's, sometimes you meet somebody and you see so much in them
Yeah.
and they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
And so learning like, how can I meet you where you're at? And then really understand like, what's the next best step that we need to take for you?
Yeah.
Right. I don't need to teach you, 301 type subjects.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to focus on 101
Right.
type subjects.
Yeah.
Right now, right. So that's another, I think, unique trait in leaders. But the other is just this is such a big idea. I've been thinking about a lot. It's the gift of high expectations. And it's the difference between being nice and being kind.
I love how you call it a gift, by the way. You start off by calling it a gift.
Yeah. Dude,
It is a gift.
I heard Hormozy talk about that.
Dissect that.
Dive into that. This is really good.
A gift or nice and being kind?
All of it. Nice and kind. Nice and kind.
Nice and kind. Because, drill into this because this is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking to my buddy Chaz the other day, and we were unpacking this, and he really helped accelerate this idea in my head. But, the long and the short is that, if there's all these surveys out there that say, 90% of employees want more feedback, more critical feedback. And one of the things I've learned leading other people is that it's tough giving feedback because you want to be liked
Totally.
naturally.
Totally.
Right. And so being nice is, hey, pat on the back. It's okay. I know you didn't get it this time. We'll get it next time.
Mhm.
Right. Or just another display of what you might think is kindness, but really you're being nice, right?
Mhm.
You're not holding them to the expectations and standards that they've shared are important to you, for themselves.
Right.
Right. And so I think being kind is, and this goes back to this idea of like, I really want to understand what you want
Mhm.
if I'm going to lead you, because that gives me an opportunity to really hold you accountable, right? Accountability without a relationship is harassment, right?
Yeah.
And so this kindness, where this falls is, hey, I know you didn't hold yourself to the standard that you wanted to. I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna give you feedback about it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask you, what happened.
Right.
You're starting to show me that you're the type of person that doesn't follow through on their word.
Mhm.
Right. You're starting to show me that you're the type of person that X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right. That's the phrase that I start to use. I've started to use to give feedback. And again, the kindness is, I care about you.
Yeah.
I care about the outcomes. Because of that, I have to have a difficult conversation with you, but I'm going to do it because we have a relationship. I'm going to do it because I care about where you go.
Yeah. I would almost make the argument that being nice is actually doing them a disservice.
100%.
I really would. And I think kindness at the time seems can be harsh depending on how you approach it, obviously, but kindness is tough. But ultimately, it is what they need to achieve what they said that they want. And I think that is a huge kind of idea to be able to grapple with, especially from a leadership standpoint, because like you were saying, like human nature, we all want to be liked, right? And it's tough to have the tough conversations. Like, it's called the tough conversations for a reason, right? But it's those tough conversations that I ultimately think pushes people to achieve what they've set out to achieve. Riley was just talking about, right, on our last podcast, how he's like, you know what, if you're feeling some type of way, like if you're going through stuff, that is totally fine. That is absolutely fine. I understand. But you
signed up for this.
You signed up.
Job.
You signed up for this, right? And I'm going to hold you to the standard.
And he straight up asked, like, his dude, like, you think this conversation is fun for me? Like, not at all.
Right.
But I have to hold you accountable.
And I think the standard is the standard, and being kind, obviously. And I think that there needs to be, a conversation that happens before all of this, either onboarding or whenever, of like, what are your objectives? What do you want to achieve? What is your outlook? Right. I think that is the precursor to all of this, because you have to understand what they really want. Because if they're not, looking to be a high achiever, that becomes tough, right? If you start trying to hold them to a standard of that, if they didn't express that. But so I think it starts with that conversation of understanding where you at, what do you want to hit, right? And then from there, being able to have those tough conversations and hold people accountable, because I genuinely think that one of the best forms of either love or wanting the best for somebody is accountability. I really do.
We all want it, and it's hard to give.
It is very hard to give.
It's very hard to give.
Well, it's contradictory to our human nature, I think. I mean, depending on the type of person you are.
100%. Like, I want to be liked.
Yeah.
But like when I was a basketball coach, like having to go off on kids or like hold them accountable was not fun for me. My initial instinct is to be their friend. So that's really good. The nice and kind principle, that's really good. And the gift there.
High expectations, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The gift of high expectations. Random question that I have. Year one of Northwestern, if you remember it, how many clients did you have at the end of your first calendar year?
In year one?
Yeah.
Oh,
I want a perspective of how far you've come.
Yeah, we probably onboarded 60 to 70 families in that time frame in the first 12 months. So
that 60 to 70 is really good for year one. I don't know the financial realm, but I'm assuming that's pretty dang good.
That's really good.
So like, okay, so like for real estate, for instance, like average realtor sells 4 houses a year. Okay, like how many would you say is an average for year one financial planner, such as yourself?
I mean, the business is really tough, obviously. So, and it depends upon what kind of model you're in. I mean, one of the reasons I decided to pitch my tent at NM was the fact that, we could meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
We can meet people where they're at. I interviewed a lot of firms, a lot of the wirehouses, and I won't say any names, but one of the things that really discouraged me was that, and I get it, it's a business,
mm-hmm.
but you weren't even getting a conversation unless you had, $250,000, $500,000. I remember talking to a buddy in the industry at another wirehouse, and he didn't know he was saying this, but he made it really clear to me. He was saying, hey, if you don't have $250,000, I don't even get paid on it. Why would I talk to that person? And I'm like, dude, like in my head, I'm thinking, think about all the people out there that have aspirations to become more, and they're out there trying to figure it out on their own. They really want to work with a partner. And you're telling me that because you don't get paid on it, you're not interested in serving them?
See, I can say, because I'm not in the industry, I think that's extremely inappropriate.
Yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way.
Because that's like me with somebody saying, a person who's really in need and they have a $10,000 house to sell. And it's like, sorry, my minimum is 100. I'm like, no, that person needs help. Plain and simple.
It's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
That extremely selfish.
Yeah.
So that's why you ended up at Northwestern.
Yeah, that's a big reason I decided to start and stay there, because we have the opportunity to really show up for people regardless of where they're at, and get them to wherever they want to go. I would venture to guess that NM has created more millionaires than any individual firm.
Really?
From start to finish. Yeah. From wherever they started up to $1 million.
How many planners are there? Like not just at your branch, but
10,000, 11,000
nationwide.
Well, dude, I remember when we would go to Milwaukee for annual conference. I mean, they would sell out the Milwaukee Bucks arena.
So there's 10,000, 11,000. Let's just say 10,000, for example. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you to dehumble yourself. Where do you rank?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
You don't know?
There's so many ways to
give me a percentage. Are you top 1, 2, 3?
I'll tell you this. I know that last year, our last kind of measuring period mm-hmm. ended in December of last year. I finished, I think, 13th in advisors in their 4th year or 5th year in my region.
Wow.
So I don't know how many advisors there were. Maybe there's 100. I don't know. I don't know exactly how many, but yeah, somewhere in the top, quartile, top 15%, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That's pretty dang good, man, for 10,000.
Yeah.
But you're doing it the right way. So it's not just sales for you. It's relationship based. It's all that stuff. And so assuming your retention is very well then too, because you are very relationship driven. And I see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is my life's work.
Yeah.
This is my life's work. So really it matters a lot to me, but you were hitting on something earlier, and I lost track of the thought, but maybe we'll come back up.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, now I'm gonna try to fish back to it. But
we're talking about who to serve and size of client and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, just saying like extremely inappropriate, like houses to sell. Like I was kind of referencing into my industry, kind of comparing, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's just been one of my biggest
nitpicks
gripes
with the industry.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just,
100%, dude. There's,
it's like,
I
how many
mean,
people
there,
really have $500,000?
dude.
Not many.
No, but there's so many people that could.
And okay, that's my mentality. So again, just kind of comparing it to my industry again. I don't mean to make it all about me, but it's like that $10,000 house.
Mhm.
That person's going to buy a $50,000 house, and they're going to sell that house and buy another one. I'm going to have like 5 transactions from that one deal over the lifetime of that client. And it's like, so you're not just turning down the person now and putting a bad taste in their mouth. You're turning down their whole future profile. So
Yeah.
like, I'm willing to take a risk on anybody.
Well, and I think that dude, that's your competitive advantage, because you are in the top quartile of advisors. You have the competency of the top advisors, but you're willing to, I'll use your words, meet people where they're at and help them get there. And so, okay, if you don't have $500,000, I'm not going to talk to you. Fine. That's more people for you.
Yeah.
And that's more impact
your
that you
heart-
can make.
Your heart and your morals are your competitive advantage, needless to
Yeah.
say.
I always tell folks.
Well, I
you
think
know,
he's got several, but
Yeah, he has other. Yeah, he's also
I
super
just say,
smart.
listen, Zach, Spencer, I don't care where you're at. I care about where you want to go.
Yes.
That's what I care
and
about.
helping build that.
Yeah. If you want to go somewhere, I'm happy to help. Now, you can't want it more
Than
Right,
them.
So
right,
that's
right.
a different story. Right.
Totally.
But
Totally.
But yeah, I think the industry as a whole, they probably serve, 12 to 25 new clients a year. That would be a big number, big growth. But yeah, man, I think we're just focused on like how many lives can we impact, and not every relationship's going to be as deep as you want it to be. But ultimately, the decisions that we get to make with those people and the things we get to teach them, whether they do it with us, someone else, or whether it plants that seed and they revisit it in the future,
Yeah.
it makes a difference.
Totally.
It makes a difference. So
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about business, and I know we got to wrap up here in the next 12 minutes. We've talked a lot about business. Let's talk about fitness.
Oh,
So
okay.
Our guy David over here, I mean, I'm sitting next to him feeling bad about myself because this dude is running marathons, So
half marathons.
okay, whatever.
I mean,
still, I do horizontal running. I'm just like, I do the lay and play. Like, hey boys, we're just gonna play while Dad lays here. So that's where I'm at. But
You need to get him in a stroller and start running with him.
Oh, dude. Dude, so like, what's your workout regimen right now? And then do you meal prep and stuff like that? Because you say you are passionate about cooking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because you can be in the office late and get home, like the last thing I want to do is have to cook some food. But
yeah.
That's okay.
But yeah, meal prep, I follow a bunch of fitness influencers online and do a lot of stuff that they do. I think I'm going to pivot here for a second. One of the things we talked about before we jumped on is how people are the new brands.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are
For
new
sure.
brands. And so, you think about all these influencers that we've built, parasocial relationships with and the things that they get to advocate for and advertise. That's been a real motivating factor. And part of the reason I like it is because they have public accountability.
Yeah.
They got to show up every day. Like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing. I
Right.
love that stuff. I'm kind of a performative person. So
Yeah.
when there's eyes on me, it's like time to show up.
Let's go.
Rise to the occasion.
Yeah. Like man in the arena, LeBron type
Yeah,
of stuff.
let's go.
Obviously not even close to that level of greatness, but that's inspiring.
By the way, LeBron's the GOAT.
All right. Move on.
Sorry.
I agree. But yeah, dude. So fitness for me, one, growing up, it was just part of sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it became aesthetics. Who doesn't love to,
Of course,
love to look good? And now I think it's more, it's an opportunity to work on the 6 inches between my ears.
100%.
Push
It's
yourself.
Like, what's that one thing that I can do every day that's difficult, that I can show up and do, especially when I don't want to do it, that requires me to, push the limits of what my capabilities are, to have to experience some pain. And, there's delayed gratification. You work out for a month and maybe you feel different.
Yeah.
You work out for 2 months and other people start to see it. People close to you start to see it. You work out for 3-4 months. Everybody sees it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things that's universally respected because you can't buy it. It's one of the few things you cannot buy.
Cannot.
You
Exactly.
Can't buy respect. and you can't buy your physique. And so, it feels great to look at yourself in the mirror and think, look what I'm building,
and be
And
proud
so-
of it.
and be proud of it. So I think that transcends so many things that we do in life,
Yeah.
and is so representative of, what success looks like at its core. So
So,
fitness is-
and I know that we got to hop, but real quick, because dude, I see that. Do you go to more of like a CrossFit type gym?
no, so I go to this place called the Dirty Gym.
Yes, and we talked about this.
Plug the Dirty Gym. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a powerlifting gym.
Okay.
I think it's oriented more towards that, but it's this big space. The Marcus, the owner, he's awesome, really cool guy. But they've done a lot of great things with the space. But I love it. CrossFit was a little too high impact.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
But the Dirty Gym is just, it's, if I want to powerlift, I can powerlift. If I want to just work on the machines, I can work on the machines. There's tons.
Oh,
of
there's
free
machines
weights.
there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, but one of the big things I'm focused on now is just like time under tension.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
Dude, I tell you what, we need to link up.
Yeah.
We need to hit the
We're gonna
gym.
lift it.
Yeah. We've been talking about
Spencer's
that.
can come too.
Yeah, Spencer,
Please come.
dude.
Please come.
Oh, dude, I want to work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get back into it. Believe me. I used to work out 7 days a week, 2 hours a day.
Well,
2 hours
it's
is hardcore.
Pre-kids.
it's tough when you got 3 kids under 3, or at 3. Very difficult.
Now I'm making excuses. Got to be disciplined.
Got to do it.
No,
Maybe
that's
we just
really
need
good
to
stuff,
be,
dude.
early in the morning. Dirty Gym opens at 4 a.m.
Does it really? What time do you get there?
I work out at night.
Dude,
I work out.
You
At
we
do
talked
night?
about this. I like working out better at night.
Yeah.
I do.
I'll be in there
Okay,
past
well,
midnight.
hold on. Let me ask you this. Do you have a morning routine?
Yeah.
What is it?
Wake up. Right. I
Yeah.
usually pray almost every morning. I pray. Which
Right on.
that's core, man. You got to start and end your day like that. I don't always end my day like that, but pretty much every morning. Usually get prepped, get ready, eat.
Yep.
Okay. I like to have some quiet mornings. I'm not my most creative and productive in the morning. That's nighttime for me, which is in part why I like going to the gym.
I'm the same.
Because a lot of my thoughts come to me. I think your brain sort of enters this meta state, and it's able to kind of deconstruct all the things that you went through that day. But breakfast in the morning. Usually it's catching up on the financial markets, catching up on the news.
Yeah.
Right. And then typically first thing I do in my office is just work on this quadrant, and it's what's urgent and important. That's first that needs to get done.
Yeah.
What's important, not urgent, that's second. And then everything else that falls below that line, I try to delegate.
Yeah.
But that's, nothing crazy in the mornings. If I was my best self, I'd love to work out in the morning.
Yeah.
I just don't have peak strength in the morning.
I'm the same way.
And so I've just preferred to work out like 8, 9 o'clock at night. I feel really, really great. And I think it helps me sleep too.
When do you typically go in and get out of the office?
I usually get there. It depends. In a perfect world, 7:30. I'm in there. I'm out of there. 7:30. So usually 12-hour day. It doesn't really feel like work to me though. I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing is like when
you're building something.
Right.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
honestly, when you leave too, it's just it never turns
No,
off.
I'm always thinking about
Always.
It's
Always.
and that's what I was going to say about like when we were talking about sales, how like business owners, you're always selling yourself. Like it just never turns off.
No.
Like you can never turn it off. And every interaction you're talking to them, like for us, like they're an investor. Same for you. And so it's always on.
It's your lifestyle.
So before we hop, I always like to give opportunity. I think that you have a tremendous amount of value to give. Truly. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt. I think that you have a tremendous amount of value to give. So I always like to make a plug. Where can people go find you? Or if they're like, hey, I want to work with you from the financial aspect, or if I just want to follow you on socials, where can they find you?
Yeah, just David Abney III. LinkedIn, great place. I've got a website through NM that's pretty easy to track down. And then my Instagram, which we're starting to
Let's go.
build
Starting
out.
to build it out,
personal
man.
brand. Yeah.
Let's do it.
We'll see how that goes, but it's just David.Abney I think it is.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
the third.
Pretty easy to track down.
Cool.
I don't know why, but I have that memorized.
Yeah.
Because you're always on your story. I always see it. So you're always
Yeah.
front of
No,
mind.
I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, go give him a follow. Listen to him.
No, thanks
Reach
for
out.
having me, guys. This is what you guys are doing is special. Just exploring ideas, collaborating, building relationships, building community. That stuff means so much for me and all the other people that get to plug in with you guys. So,
It's
props to
definitely
you guys.
reciprocated of we thank you for taking the time, hopping on, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks
Yeah.
for a good combo.
Yeah.
Last thing. So
Yeah.
one of my coaches told me this the other week. He said, what's your plan? Because in life, you're either a part of someone's plan or they're a part of your plan. So the strongest plan wins. What's your plan? So just something to think about.
May the strongest plan win.
That's where we're dropping. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.